Haley, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. Right off the top, how are you doing? How's your family holding up? Because as we speak, COVID-19 definitely affecting the Canada and North America and around the world. How are you doing throughout this tough time?
I think as best as you can be doing. BC recently just hit an all-time high, so we thought we were going back to normal, and we got a reality check. we're all out here trying. Like, I feel like this time off has been very interesting for musicians, but I've been taking it in my advantage to like foster some personal relationships, which I think were neglected in the past, I guess, the good old days.
Well, no, that's great. No, that's great to hear. I've been kind of doing the same thing myself too. You kind of realize when you're in situations like this, really what the important things are in life.
Totally.
Has it changed the way you were writing music before the pandemic and now?
Oh, I don't know so much. Well, actually, maybe. I think a writing exercise I've been trying to do is actually taking my time writing a song and not saying if it's not done in 20 minutes, I'll never write it. Mm-hmm. So I think now that I have all this time, now that I am noticing that I have been kind of like taking a few weeks or like a month to finish a song, which was previously unheard of for me.
Well, again, completely understandable about that. But I also want to get your thoughts, too, before we talk about your career and music. And by the way, congratulations on the new album. Let me say that right off the top. What are your thoughts, too, on the fact that not just with COVID-19, racism being spoken to in a different manner that's never been spoken about before, the fact that people are literally fighting about wearing a mask, not wearing a mask. You see so many crazy things now on social media. I mean, I always thought social media was crazy before, but now for myself, there are times when I'm just like, I cannot look at Facebook because I do not want to see that kind of a post. What do you think about all this?
I know. It's so infuriating to me. When we were in like the thick of it, and like I think still here in Vancouver, there's still like ongoing protests and a lot of activism, that's the word, towards a lot of communities here. And like, for example, Hogans was a historic site that was demolished in the early 50s, I believe. And so we're still taking like lots of strides here, but it's so infuriating. And before, like in March and stuff, I had to put a timer on all my apps, or else I would just be scrolling mindlessly for hours and hours and really not taking in as much as I could. So I thought it was good to just kind of like check out at a certain point, but then it's up to me what I do with what I've like absorbed throughout the whole day. But yeah, I don't know why all the mask stuff has become so politicized. It just seems so common sense. It's all just common sense to me, like just human rights and care about people. It's just so mind-boggling.
No, you just said the word caring about people. To me, that's what your music is really all about. It's about people caring about each other. It's a beautiful aspect of looking on life, whether it be good or bad, but you still have this beauty behind that. How do you channel that beauty in whatever aspect of life that you're talking about, whether, of course, like I said, it's a beautiful kind of day or the struggles that people go through, you still find a beauty in it?
Oh, thank you so much. I just write as honestly and as authentically as possible. I try to, something I've been doing, another exercise during all this is like trying to write totally from like personal experience and complete honesty. Before, my practices were more like fictional, writing stories about some instance that I made up in my head that maybe people could relate to because it's pretty vague and not so personal. But yeah, just keeping it as honest as possible and just, I don't know, thank you. That means a lot.
Well, definitely, I think the type of music that you have is definitely something that we need right now. Where did that love of music come from for you?
I've just always had it. I was raised on music. I was raised as an operatic singer from 8 to 18, so I have a bit of like a technical training background, and it's just kind of always been there. Music, no matter what genre, has always just kind of powered me through.
Okay, now that's curious because here you are and you're doing one of the best kind of vocal trainings that anybody can have. Mm-hmm. But what were you listening to? What were you on the radio or on social media? What kind of music were you listening to growing up?
Well, I always kind of kick myself because in hindsight, I think that as a teenager, I was super uncool and didn't really care too much about, like, I wasn't like a music nerd, you know, I just kind of listened to whatever sounded nice and made me feel good. I looked at it really like rationally and logistically, not too passionately. I recently came to this realization that I've only recently become super passionate about music, which sounds really strange for a musician to say, but it's true. There was like a catalyst for me when I moved out on my own from my parents' house and kind of gained my own perspective on life, and I saw things differently. And then that's when I became like super into music, like the way that you just want to obsess over discographies and stuff like that. That I didn't really have that growing up. I was just kind of like, music's nice. I like it. I'll keep it.
But were you writing things down though, even during that time, without even realizing that maybe you were writing lyrics or songs? Were you writing ideas that were in your head? What was that like?
It was more absent-minded. Like I wasn't doing it strategically. I kept a journal. I probably would cringe to look back on it now, but yeah, I think there were like stems of songs in there. But as I got older, I was definitely trying to form them into more like cohesive songs or thoughts.
When did it all come together? When did it, if you want to call it lightning strike, going, you know what? Music is definitely the passion for me.
I think it was definitely when I moved out on my own. I was 20, turning 21. And it just like all kind of came together, you know, when you move out and you just see the world through rose-colored glasses. And you're just like, I can do anything I want.
But you have to, I don't know if you say you have to find that certain genre. What kind of music were you starting to form for yourself? Or was there a genre-minded type of music?
Yeah, no, maybe not too much. I just started getting like heavily into like Carole King and like collecting vinyls, getting into like these roots that inspire me now. Like on the album, there's a lot of Carole King inspiration just because I love her so much.
It's funny that you say that because when I was actually listening to music, I wasn't thinking so much as Carole King, but I was thinking about more of those artists back in the 90s.
Yeah, totally.
That is what I kind of felt, not just musically, but even vocally, too, in the way you sing that. Is it sort of like you're in the wrong time period, if you want to put it away?
I would definitely relate to that, yes.
Well, then let's get into the LP, Below the Salt. Unusual name. I would never have thought of something like that. Where did that come from?
Well, I'm a self-identified salt freak, and so when I was toying with like titles and stuff, you spitball for a few months or however long it takes, and then suddenly I was just like reading a book about salt because that's just my morning reading, and they came across the history of where like all these phrases come from that relate to salt, and Below the Salt is about someone who sits below it because salt was once priced like gold. It was super expensive, so if you couldn't afford it, you were just like not royalty. You were just an average guy, like a working man. You sat below the salt, and I just kind of related to that. And in hindsight, a lot of my songs refer back to that like ideal of working at 9 to 5 and like having a dream, and also being a little lonely and like feeling disconnected and stuff like that.
The album itself, though, what does it musically mean? Is it a musical journey? Or are we just looking at individual songs, or does each song follow a path?
Oh, yeah, I totally didn't realize I was making an album until I was making it. It really is kind of like a collection of songs at different parts of my life over the last, like, 3 or 4 years. So it's kind of like a snapshot. There's no really big, grandiose, like, conceptual idea to it. But I love that idea. I love trying to make something really thematic for the next one.
Well, all the songs are excellent, and again, congratulations on that. But On a Weekend has a very special meaning. Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah, so that kind of took a different meaning, definitely at least now. It originally was just a kind of a lonely ballad about how maybe myself or someone sometimes speaking from experience, gets rejected and doesn't necessarily have plans all the time. I guess, for lack of a better term, FOMO. But when quarantine started is when the song came out, and it just kind of made sense. It's about being alone on a weekend, and I guess maybe trying to make the most of it and looking at it as like I don't need plans, who cares, but also like through grit and teeth.
Hogans Alley Society.
Mm-hmm.
What connection does this have with your music?
Well, I just think it's a great community to support. I actually just recently moved to Strathcona, which is right in the midst of where Hogans Alley used to be. And I think it's just important to stay connected to your community, especially being so close. Before, I was kind of like disconnected, about 30 minutes away. And so you can see how like distance would just be like, oh, okay, well, sometimes just like distance makes it seem like it's not your back door, but it is, because we're all in Vancouver and we're all connected as a community. So I just moving here and like especially just wanting to, I don't know, I don't know how to put it into words because it just seems like common sense to me again, you know?
Speaking of common sense, we want to see you. I mean, common sense that you would be performing and doing some performances. Are there virtual performances happening with you throughout this time?
Yes, I haven't done one yet, but we do have one streaming on September 13th at 5 p.m. PST. It's going to be live from the Fox Cabaret in Vancouver, and it's going to be the first time my band is performing a lot of from the album, so that will be really cool. Really
okay, definitely looking forward to that. But I'm going to assume that you've got a lot of plans happening, even though we are kind of still in a lockdown. Social media is the place to go. Where do we go to find out everything that will be happening throughout 2020?
Definitely Instagram. Are you talking about me personally?
Yes.
Yes, my Instagram or Twitter. Do you want me to give a little handle shout out? Absolutely. Okay, it's at Blais. That's when you keep your high school handle all these years. I'm nostalgic for it.
Oh, my goodness. You were definitely born in the wrong era. Your music was out in the wrong era. Oh, my God. This is amazing. And by the way, folks, if you get a chance, you have to see the artwork on a weekend. It is the coolest thing. Before we wrap up, how did you come up with the idea of that?
And that's my niece, Alma, on the front. She's just my favorite person in the world. And I brought my friend, who is a photographer, and I said, let's just go to Alma's house and just photograph me hanging out. And it started raining, and I said, let's go run outside. And we started running through the rain. And she's the best. I'm glad that I could immortalize her.
Amazing. Thank you again so much for doing this interview with me.
Thank you so much.
I'm really looking forward to hopefully maybe by 2021 that when we talk again, it'll be, one-on-one. You'll be able to come to Toronto, perform somewhere here, and we can actually have a sit-down chat and talk about all the amazing things that you're doing. And I love your music. And thank you for so much of being real and bringing this kind of music throughout this tough time.
Thank you so much. I look forward to hanging out in the future.
Take care and be safe.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye.